Good morning students. Welcome to 8th Standard Social Science, Geography, 4th Unit, Migration and Urbanization. So children, listen carefully to this session. In case of any doubts, make a note of it, which shall be clarified on the day of reopening. Our lesson starts with a conversation between Rajesh and Suresh. So Rajesh and Suresh were new students joined in a school. They were allotted to section A in 8th standard. The class teacher and other students of the class welcomed them. Teacher said, "You are going to have 2 new friends today. So you all introduce yourselves to others. Say your name and place from where you are coming." Then Rajesh told, "I am Rajesh. As my mother has been transferred to this school, we migrated from Chennai to Krishnagiri." Then Suresh introduced himself as, "I am Suresh, coming from the village called Pudupatti. It is 5 kilometers away from the school." One of the students in the class had a doubt and she asked, "Madam, please tell me the meaning of migration, the word used by Rajesh." The class teacher said, "In this lesson, we are going to see about migration." So first let's see the definition for migration. Migration is defined as the permanent or semi-permanent change of the residence of an individual or group of people over a significant distance. So the term migration refers to the movement of people from one place to another. So migration means movement of people from one place to another. It can be either permanent or temporary. So I hope you are clear. Migration means movement of people from one place to another for a specific reason, and it can be the duration of stay, can be permanent or semi-permanent. According to United Nations Organization, so according to UNO means United Nations Organization, the definition for migration is, migration is a form of geographical mobility of population between a geographical unit to another, generally involving a permanent change of residence. So according to UNO, the definition for migration is a form of geographical mobility. So mobility means movement of population between the two geographical units. So between a geographical unit to another, generally involving a permanent change of residence. So residence means the place where you stay, that is your house. One of the most important aspects of social science is human migration. So, as we all know, the birds migrate from one place to another for particular season. So, one of the most important aspect of social science is human migration. That is, migration of population from one place to another for a specific reason, and the migration can be a permanent one or a temporary one. It has maintained a close relation with mankind from its earliest stage. So, migration is one of the most important dynamic human activities from the very beginning of human life. So, the human civilization, it started with migration. And then, during the early days, people moved from one place to another in search of food. So, during the ancient period, people led a nomadic life. So nomadic means they kept on moving from one place to another in search of food and shelter. So during the early days, people moved from one place to another in search of food. Then, when most of the people ceased to live in forest and adopted civilized life, so then they started to settle down at one particular place. So, when most of the people ceased to live in forest and they adopted the civilized life, they domesticated animals. So when they started to settle at a particular place, they started domestication of animals and cultivation of land. As a result, the mobility of mankind changed considerably. They almost left the nomadic life and started to live in permanent settlement. So they left the nomadic life and started to settle down at one particular place where plenty of resources are available for their living. And they learned how to cultivate the land. So they learned the cultivation of land. So children, do you know the reason why people migrate from one place to another? So why do people migrate from one place to another? So let's see the reasons for that. Factors of migration. So what are the factors which influence the migration? On what basis the people are migrating or moving from one place to another? So before seeing that, first you have to know about the push and pull factors. So what are the push and what are the pull factors? So from the name itself we can get push means lack of availability of resources and pull means very attractive element. So let's see the definition. Push factors are factors that force a person to move or emigrate. So push factors are factors that force a person to move out of a particular place, whereas pull factors are factors that encourage a person to come into a new place. So push means it force a person to get out of a particular place, whereas pull means it encourages the person to come and settle down at the particular place. So push means lack of resources, pull means attractive element in a particular place. So the reasons for migration is the main pull factors are availability of health care and economic status, jobs, city life, education, peace, food. Whereas the push factors are the climatic disaster at a particular place, the farmer's life, poverty and war. So these are all the push factors, whereas the pull factors are availability of all resources. So let's see the factors of migration. First one is ecological or natural causes of migration. So what are the natural causes which leads to migration? And second one is economic causes of migration. Third one is socio-cultural causes of migration and demographic causes of migration. And finally, political causes of migration. So these are all the factors which influence the person to move from one place to another. So first one is natural cause, economic cause, socio-cultural cause, demographic cause and political cause. So let's see it in detail. So first one is ecological or natural causes of migration. So because of natural calamities. So this type of migration takes place because of natural calamities. People move out of the particular place and they will settle down at another place. So what are the kinds of natural calamities? Means volcanic eruption, then earthquake, then flood. So frequent floods will occur at a particular place, and then drought. So these events forced the people to leave their native places and settled in new areas. So these are all the natural causes that force the people to leave the particular place and settle down at new places. And the conditions like availability of water resources, areas free from hazards, pollution. So these conditions attracts the migrants. So the availability of water resources, areas free from hazards, natural hazards as well as pollution attracts the migrant. So now let's see the second factor of migration, that is economic causes of migration. So economy is one of the most important causes of human migration from one area to another. So economy is one of the most important cause for human migration from one place to another. That is, in search of job, they will leave their native place and they will go and settle down at a new area. So, various economic causes determine the level and direction of migration. So, let's see the economic causes. So, first one is availability of fertile agricultural land. So, first economic cause is availability of fertile agricultural land. And the second cause is proper employment opportunities, that is job opportunities, and then development of technology. So, these are all the economic causes which attracts the people to come and settle down in that particular place. So, first one is agricultural land, and then job opportunity and technology. Development of technology are some of the economic causes that attract the migration. So, now let's see the push factors. So, first one is the mass poverty at a particular place, and then the unemployment factor. So, the mass poverty and unemployment factor force the people to move out from their native places to the places where the better employment opportunities are available. So, the mass poverty and unemployment, it forces the people to move from the particular place and to settle down at some other place where the resources are available. So, now let's move on to the third factor of migration, that is socio-cultural causes of migration. So, the socio-cultural causes also play some roles in the process of migration. So, let's see the socio-cultural causes. First one is migration of women after marriage. So, migration of women after marriage, and second one is migration associated with pilgrimage are based on socio-cultural customs. So, what all the type of migration that comes under the socio-cultural causes is, first one is migration of women after her marriage, and second one is migration associated with pilgrimage. So, in order to worship, people leave their native place and they will visit a pilgrimage. So, pilgrimage means temples. So, these comes under socio-cultural customs. So, now let's move on to the fourth factor of migration, that is demographic causes of migration. So, fourth factor is demographic causes of migration. So, let's see it in detail. In demographic sense, the population composition like age and sex, overpopulation and underpopulation are the major causes of migration. So, in the sense of demographic, the overpopulation and underpopulation are the major causes of migration. So, it is well known fact that adults are more migratory than any other age groups. So, we all know that adults migrate frequently when compared to any other age groups. So, the main reason is job opportunity. And then, women mostly migrate after their marriage. So, women mostly migrate after their marriage. And children, the overpopulation is considered as the push factor. So, overpopulation means what? Increase in population. So, increase in population is considered as a push factor because the people are pushed away from their native place and they are coming and settling at a new areas. So, overpopulation is considered as a push factor, whereas underpopulation is considered as the pull factor. So, under means low population. So, the lower population rate is considered as the pull factor. Because of the attractive element in new areas, the people are migrating from their native place and they are settling into new place. So, underpopulation is considered as the pull factor. So, I hope you are clear. Female migrants outnumber male migrants in Europe, Northern America, Oceania and Latin America and the Caribbean, while in Africa and Asia, particularly Western Asia, migrants are predominantly men. So, the female migrants are more when compared to male migrants in the places like Europe, Northern America, Oceania and Latin America as well as Caribbean. Whereas, in Africa, Asia and Western Asia, mostly men migrants are more. So, it's a survey report. So now let's move on to the political causes of migration. So what are the political causes that influence the people to move from one place to another? Various political causes like colonization, wars, government policies, etc. have always been playing important role in human migration from time to time. So various political causes like colonization, war and the government policies, it makes the people to move from one place to another. So these are all the political causes. And then wars have been one of the significant causes of migration since ancient time. So from the ancient time, war is one of the significant political cause for the people to migrate from one place to another. Then types of migration. So now let's move on to types of migration. So far we have seen about the definition of migration and factors of migration. Now we are going to see about the various types of migration. So the migration types are based on the movement associated with administrative limits. So first one is based on the movement associated with administrative limit. Second one is based on the willingness of the migrants for migration. Third one is based on the duration of stay of migrants in the place of destination. So these are all the three types of migration. First one is based on the movement associated with administrative limit, and second one is based on willingness, and third one is based on duration. So let's see it in detail with some examples. First one is based on the movement associated with administrative limits. So we can classify it into two types. So one is internal migration, another one is international migration. So internal migration is further subdivided into R means rural, U means urban. So rural means you all know village, urban means city and town. So first one is rural to urban, second one is urban to urban, third one is rural to rural, and finally urban to rural. So now let's see the definition for each. So first one is internal migration. So internal means within the country. So internal means within the country. So migrating within the country. The movement of people within a country is known as internal migration. So further, the internal migration is classified into four categories on the basis of the place of origin and the destination of the migrants. So further, the internal migration is classified into four. As I said, rural to urban, rural to rural, urban to rural, and urban to urban. So based on the source. Source means the starting place and destination means the final place. So first one is rural to urban. So from the name, rural means village. So the people will migrate from village to urban. So urban means city side. So from village to city life. So let's see the reason and the definition. So rural to urban is the movement of population from rural areas to growing towns and cities. So why they migrate means mainly in search of employment, education, recreation facilities. So mainly the people will move out from village and they will settle out in cities because of employment opportunities, education and recreational facilities like healthcare and banking facilities. So these are all the main reason why people move from village to city life. So next type of internal migration is from urban to urban, that is from city to city. So let's see the definition. Urban to urban migration is the migration between one urban center to another, like in search of higher salaries. So moving within the cities in search of higher salaries comes under urban to urban migration. And the third type of internal migration is from rural to rural. So rural to rural means from one village to another village. So rural to rural migration is driven by fertile land for cultivation and other sociological factors like marriage, etc. So rural to rural means from one village to another village. So the main reason is for the cultivation process Another one is marriage. And the fourth internal migration is from urban to rural, that is from city to village. So what is the main reason for that is urban to rural migration is the movement from urban centers to rural areas to get rid of the urban problems and returning to native places after retirement from jobs. So, urban to rural, that is from city to village, why the people migrate means to get rid of all the city life problems like pollution. So, pollution in the sense noise, air, water, soil, to get rid of all these city life problems and to enjoy a peaceful life after their retirement. Again, they will go to their native places. So, this comes under urban to rural migration. So, I hope you are clear with internal migration. And rural to urban migration is the most common one. So, among the four, the most common one is people moving from village to city life is the most common migration. So, now let's move on to international migration. So, international means outside the country. So, international means leaving the country. Migration that occurs across the national boundaries are known as international migration. So, international migration means migration that occurs across the national boundaries are called international migration. Now, let's move on to the second type of migration, that is based on the willingness of the migrants for migration. So, based on the willingness. So, first one is voluntary migration. So, voluntary means with interest. So, people are moving out of their native place on their own interest for a specific reason. So, let's see the definition. If the migration takes place on person's free will, initiative and desire to live in a better place and to improve their financial status, the migration is said to be voluntary migration. So, migration takes place on the person's will in order to improve their status comes under voluntary migration. So, according to their own interest, they are moving out of their native place. So, now let's move on to the second type, that is involuntary or forced migration. So, involuntary or forced migration, that is not on their own interest. So, let's see the definition. If the migration takes place against the will of migrants, the migration is termed as involuntary migration. So, they are forced to move out from their native place. So, such kind of migration are called involuntary migration. The push factors like war. So, because of war, the people are forced to leave their native place. So, the push factors like war may force the people to emigrate from a place is of this type. So, I hope you are clear. So, now let's move on to the third type of migration, that is based on the duration of stay of migrants in the place of destination. So, the third type is based on the duration. So, based on the duration is further classified into short-term migration. So, short-term means from the name itself we can get staying in a particular destination for 1 or 3 days. So, in this kind of migration, the migrants stay outside only for a short duration before returning to their place of origin. So, this is for a short duration. The duration may be from a few days to few months. So, short term duration means the people migrate to destination only for a short period of time. Again, they will return to their place of origin, that is their native place. For example, if you go and visit a temple, it is for a short term period. Again, you will return back to your house. The second duration based on duration is long term duration. So, long term migration. So, let's see the definition. It is the kind of migration in which the migrants stay outside at least for few years. So, long term means they migrate for few years. For example, in search of job, they will go to foreign countries for few years. So, this type of migration is called long term migration. And then seasonal migration. So, seasonal migration, from the name itself we can say they will visit a particular destination for a season, particular season. So let's see the definition. In this type of migration, usually a group of people migrates from their native places during a particular season and returns after the end of that season. So they will visit a particular place for a particular season and again they will return back. For example, visiting the hilly regions for a particular winter season comes under this type of migration. So let's see some more examples. People migrating to hill stations during summer. So during summer season, most of the people, they migrate to hill stations. So this comes under seasonal migration. Another example is migration of agricultural workers during sowing seasons. So the agricultural workers, they migrate from one land to another during the sowing seasons. And then transhumance is another example of seasonal migration. So transhumance is a seasonal migration where the pastoral farmers move with their herds seasonally or periodically between plains and mountains. So the pastoral farmers, they move with their herds of sheep seasonally or periodically from plains or to mountains. So like that, it comes under seasonal migration. So now let's see what are the consequences of migration. So consequence means what are the effects of migration. So let's see one by one. So first one is migration affects both the areas of origin of migration and the areas of destination. So migration affects both the native place as well as the destination where you reach. So it affects both the places, the source as well as the destination. So now let's see the consequences of migration. So what are the effects of migration? So first one is demographic consequences and second one is social consequences, economic consequences and finally environmental consequences. So let's see it in detail. So first one is demographic consequences. So what are the demographic effects of migration? It changes the age and sex composition of population. So if a people migrate from one place to another, the age and gender ratio differs in the destination place. So it is the demographic effects of migration. And then migration of females after their marriage leads to decline in sex ratio in the source regions and increase the sex ratio in the regions of destination. So the migration of females after the marriage, so when the female gets migrated after her marriage, there is a difference in the gender ratio. So in the source region, that is in the native place of the women, the gender ratio will decrease, whereas the destination place, the gender ratio will increase. So there will be a variation in the gender ratio because of migration. And then the migration of male workers in search of jobs decreases the independent population of the source regions, which increases the dependency ratio. So mostly the male migrates because of job opportunities. So it decreases the independent population of the native place. So if a person gets migrated to foreign country means the native place population will get decreases, whereas it increases the dependency ratio in the other foreign countries. So now let's see about the social consequences of migration. So what are the social effects of migration? The migration of people from different regions towards an urban area leads to the formation of plural society. It helps the people to come out of narrow-mindedness and people become generous. So the social consequences of migration is it creates a broad-mindedness among the people where they accept and respect the other cultures and other language. So it creates a broad-mindedness and it helps the people to come out of narrow-mindedness and become generous. So the people will become generous. So it is one of the advantage of migration. And next is economic consequences. So what are the economic effects of migration? So The migration of more people from overpopulated to underpopulated regions results in the imbalance of the resource population ratio. So, the people from overpopulated area to underpopulated area, it results in the imbalance between the availability of resources and the population ratio. So, there will be an imbalance in the ratio of between the availability of resources and the population. And then, migration may influence the occupational structure of the population of an area. Through this, it will certainly affect the economy of the regions also. So, the migration also influences the occupational structure of the area. Another important consequence of migration is brain drain. So, brain drain is a consequence or the effect of migration. So, now let's see the definition of brain drain theory. So, brain drain refers to the migration in which skilled people from economically backward countries move to developed countries in search of better opportunities. So, brain drain means the skilled people, that is the people will educate themselves in one particular country and they will migrate from that place to another place in search of better opportunities. So, brain drain refers to the migration in which skilled people from the economically backward countries and they will move to another developed countries in search of better opportunities. So, that is called brain drain. It is one of the major effects of migration. Eventually, this leads to backwardness in the source region. This is called backwash effect. So, when a skilled person migrate from the native place, that is from the source place to some other new area, it creates a backwardness in the source region. So, the source regions will become low in development. So, this is called backwash effect. So, it is one of the most important consequences of migration. So, now let's move on to environmental consequences. So, what are the environmental effects because of migration? So, let's see the reason. Large scale movement of people from rural to urban areas causes overcrowding in cities and puts heavy pressure on resources. So, more people they migrate from village to city life in search of better opportunities. So, it creates the overcrowding in cities and puts heavy pressure on resources. So, when there is overcrowding, then the availability of resource are under heavy pressure. So, because of overpopulation, it leads to the pollution of air. So, because of overpopulation, it leads to air pollution. So, not only air pollution and also water pollution and then soil pollution. So, because of overpopulation, the air, water and soil will get polluted. And then scarcity of drinking water. So, overpopulation leads to scarcity of drinking water. Then lack of space for housing. So, there will be no space to build the houses. And traffic congestions. So, because of overcrowding, there will be a traffic problem. And then poor drainage facilities. So, poor drainage facility. So, the lack of space for housing and the rising of land costs lead to the formation of slums. So, because of overcrowding, it leads to the formation of slums. So, these are all the effects of migration. So, now let's move on to the another important concept, that is urbanization. So, what is the definition for urbanization? So, let's see it. Urbanization refers to the process in which there is an increase in the proportion of population living in towns and cities. So, urbanization, it refers to the process in which there is an increase in the proportion of population living in towns and cities. So, urbanization means increase in population. So, now let's see what are the causes for urbanization. So, why the population increase? So, what are the causes of urbanization? So, let's see it. Urbanization is driven by three factors. So, the three main factors for urbanization is, first one is the natural population growth. So one is the natural population, that is the people in their native place. And second one is rural to urban migration. So because of the population migration from village area to city side. So because of that. And the third factor is the reclassification of rural areas into urban areas. So because of the development in the rural areas, it will be reclassified as urban areas. So these are all the reason for the population increase, which is called urbanization. So first one is the natural population growth, that is the people living at that native place, and then the rural to urban migrants, and then the reclassification of village into city because of the developments in the village side. So these are all the three reasons for the increase of populations, which is called urbanization. So now let's see the origin and growth of world urbanization. So how this urbanization started? So it started from the ancient period, that is the Indus Valley civilization. So let's see the origin and growth. The process of urbanization in the world has a very long history. So the process of urbanization, that is the process of development in the world, has a long history starting from the ancient period. So ancient period, the urban centers started developing during the prehistoric period, that is before 10,000 years ago. So let's see the urbanization in ancient period. So the ancient period, the urban centers started developing 10,000 years ago. So during the prehistoric period time, that is during this period, primitive man started domestication of plants and animals, that is the prehistoric humans, they started domestication of plants and animals. And then it was the period of development of permanent settlement. So after domestication of plants and animals, they started to settle down at a particular place. So it was the period of development of permanent settlement. So mostly they settled near the river valley areas. The river valley regions of the Egypt, Greece and India gave rise to agrarian communities, which eventually formed the urban communities and urban centers. So why they choose the river valley side? Because of the fertile soil and the water resource. So they chose river valley areas because of fertile soil and water resource. So most of the civilization in Egypt, Greece and India, it started as an agrarian community. So agrarian means one who practice agriculture. So it started as an agrarian community and later it was developed as urban communities and urban centers. So the excess production of food grains was the major reason for urbanization. So now let's see some of the urban centers in the world. First one is Ur and Babylon in Mesopotamia, and then Thebes and Alexandria in Egypt, and Athens in Greece. So Athens is located in Greece, and then Harappa and Mohenjo-daro in India. So Harappa and Mohenjo-daro in India were noted as the prehistoric sites of the world. So these are all the prehistoric sites of the world, well known for its urbanization. Then in ancient period, the increase in the number and size of urban centers occurred during the two great colonizing periods of the Greeks and Romans. So in the ancient period, the increase in the number and size of urban centers occurred mostly in the Greece and Rome. And then during the beginning of the 7th century itself, many cities were found near the Aegean Sea. So during the beginning of 7th century, many cities were developed near the Aegean Sea in Greece. So Greece and Rome are the two colonizing periods where there was an increased number of urban centers. So now let's see about the medieval period. So it refers to the period after the 11th century. During this period, the European countries increased their overseas trade, which played an important role in the revival of European towns and cities after a period of low development. So during the medieval period, lot of urban centers were developed because of the Europeans. So because of the arrival of Europeans. Mainly they arrived because for trading purpose. And then at the end of the 13th century, Paris and London, then Geneva, and then Milan and Venice were the important cities found in Europe. So at the end of the 13th century, these were the important cities found in Europe. So now let's see about the modern period. So how the urbanization was developed in modern period. This period starts from the 17th century. It marks the third phase of development in urbanization. So it is the third phase. First we have seen about the ancient period, medieval period. Now it is the third phase, that is the modern period, and it started from the 17th century. So the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century accelerated the growth of towns and cities. So the main reason is the Industrial Revolution which took place in 19th century. It only accelerated, means it is the main reason for the cause of the growth of towns and cities. And then the Europeans with urban civilization gave birth to a large number of new towns in North America and Soviet Union. Then the modern means of transport and communication, the development of new trade routes during the 19th century had strengthened the trade centers and urban areas. So because of the transport and communication and the development of the new trade routes during the 19th century, lot of urban centers were developed. The latest development in urbanization was noticed in the continent of Africa. So the latest development of urbanization was noticed in the continent of Africa. Before 1930, Africa had towns only on its coast, but now it has 50 towns with population exceeding 1 lakh. So before 1930, Africa had only towns on the sea coast, but now it has 50 towns with population more than 1 lakh. And then major cities in Africa are Cairo, Nairobi, Mombasa, Bulawayo, Douala, Abidjan, Lagos, Accra, Addis Ababa, Leopoldville, Luanda, Cape Town, Natal and Pretoria. So these are all the major cities in Africa. And then let's see about a survey of world urbanization. So it is a survey of world urbanization. So according to that, North America urban population is 82%, and then Latin America and Caribbean urban population is 81%, and then Europe urban population is 74%, and Oceania, that is urban population, is 68%. So Oceania means Australia. The urban population is 68%. So it is a survey report. And then Asia urban population is 50%. Asia is 50%. And Africa urban population is 43%. So now let's see the world top 5 cities in population. So what are the world top 5 cities? So let's see. First one is Tokyo, Japan. It has 37 million population. So Tokyo, Japan has 37 million population. And next one is Delhi, India, 29 million population. So Delhi, India has 29 million population. And then Shanghai, China has 26 million in population. So Shanghai, China is 26 million in population. And next is Mexico City, Mexico, 22 million in population. So Mexico City, Mexico, 22 million in population. And then Sao Paulo, it is located at Brazil, 22 million population. So Sao Paulo, it is located at Brazil, 22 million in population. So it is the list of top 5 cities. So now let's move on to the consequences of urbanization. So because of this increase in population, what are the effects of urbanization? So let's see. First consequence is overcrowding. So because of increase in population, it results in overcrowding. So now let's see what are the effects of overcrowding. So what are the effects of overcrowding? Overcrowding leads to unhealthy environment in urban areas. It also the cause of many disease and riots. So overcrowding, it leads to unhealthy environment mainly in urban areas. It is the source of many disease and riots. So riots means fightings. And then water supply and drainage and sanitation problem. So the another consequence of urbanization is water supply, drainage and sanitation problem. So no city has round the clock water supply in the world. Drainage situation is equally bad. So because of overpopulation, there will be a problem in the water supply as well as drainage situation in cities, that is in urban areas. And then removal of garbage is a Himalayan task for the urban local bodies. So the removal of garbage is a Himalayan task. It is a very difficult and complex task. So Himalayan means very difficult and complex task for the urban local bodies because of overpopulation. And then transportation and traffic. So another effects of urbanization is transportation and traffic. So let's see. Because of overpopulation, there will be more traffic on the road. So absence of planned and adequate arrangements for traffic and transport is another problem in urban areas. So absence of planned and adequate arrangements for traffic and transport is another problem in urban areas. And then the increasing number of two-wheelers and cars make the traffic problem even worse. So because of overpopulation, the vehicles also will increase. So the increasing number of two-wheelers and cars make the traffic problem worse, and they will cause air pollution as well. So they cause air pollution as well. So now let's see another important effect of urbanization, that is pollution. So because of overpopulation, it leads to pollution. Towns and cities are the major polluters of environment. So towns and cities are the major polluters of environment because of many industries and then factories as well as the traffics. So several cities discharge their entire sewage and industrial effluents untreated into the nearby rivers. So several cities, they discharge their entire chemicals from the industries into the nearby rivers. And also industries in and around the urban areas pollute the atmosphere with smoke and toxic gases. So the industries in and around the cities, it pollutes the air with smoke, and toxic means poisonous gases. So these are all the effects of urbanization. So urbanization means increase in population. So children, I hope you are clear with today's session. With this, Geography 4th unit, that is Migration and Urbanization, is completed. So you can refer your textbook pages from page number 112 to 119 and try to answer all the book back questions with the help of this video and your textbook. So now it's time for questions. So let's see some evaluation questions. In case of any doubts, you can go through the whole session video once again. So let's see the questions now. First question is, a person moves from his own country to another country is known as. Second question, urbanization is determined by how many number of factors? Third question, name any two pull factors of migration. what is urbanization, and finally define migration. So children, answer all these questions in the notebook which you are maintaining for social science. So with this, we have come to an end of this session. So with this video, Geography 4th unit, that is Migration and Urbanization, is completed. Thank you.